All right, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the U School Podcast. We're focusing on this idea of being tech healthy parents. I know as a parent of three kids and talking to parents almost every day about this, parents are very, very concerned about technology and social media. Years ago, when phones and social media were coming out, I think we all had this sense that it's not going to be good for our kids. And now we're on the other side of data, really well done research about the harms of social media and screen time for kids. We not only see that in our own kids, but we hear on the news every day about online bullying turning into anxiety, depression, loss of life for kids. We hear about pedophiles. I saw this big article this morning about pedophiles coming through Roblox, which is a game our youngest daughter play. I mean, it's just like, so the threats are very, very real. And so parents, you have every right to be very concerned. And what we're trying to do through this is help kind of apply U School thought and thinking to these dynamics, because there is I believe, a short-term requirement for us as parents to put guardrails to protect our kids. But there's this longer-term goal that we hold in our hearts and minds, that parents, we want to help raise kids who are autonomous, lead their own lives. And the fact is, if you think about it for more than a second, all of your kids will have devices when they're adults. They will have social media. They will be participating in the digital world. So we want to protect them now, but we also want to train them and teach them principles and perspectives that will help them be self-aware, wise, be able to participate in that world, but not be distracted or harmed by it. So with all that, that's what we're doing here. And we're going through, going to have like a series of episodes where me, a dad of an 18-year-old boy, 15-year-old girl, an 11-year-old daughter, talk about the experiences I've had for the past many years now. And then Tyler, why don't you kind of introduce you and your family and what we're doing this episode?
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, Scott, you shared how you're feel like you're coming at from the older end with kids going into college. I'm on the younger end. I've got four kids spanning from preschool to middle school. So my oldest is 12 right now. And I think both of us, we're navigating this world of technology and smartphones and all the new data that's come out, and saying, like, on one hand, it's very personal. We want to know, how do we raise our own kids in a healthy environment and set them up well to thrive? And it seems that there are just a lot of these similar questions that are going around. And so we created that Tech Healthy Parenting course that really helps families create a really practical approach to everything that has to do with screens and social media, from creating a really solid plan and getting rhythms in place, and to understanding some of the data out there. And it's been fun to research this and to bring in more of the community. So we did very recently, we had a survey going out, and we had a bunch of parents come in and just let us know what are the typical rhythms in their life in regards to their smartphones. What are the biggest questions that they have? What are their own applied wisdom that they're already learning about how to create healthy boundaries? And one of the questions that we felt was the most impactful, we just asked you all as parents to let us know, what are the biggest challenges you have when it comes to this whole world of social media and screens? And so we have a whole bunch of questions. And over the next couple episodes, we want to actually just work through some of those questions. These are real questions from other parents who are navigating this, from younger kids to older kids, and just what are the things that you're dealing with and the hurdles that you keep running up against.
Yeah. So one of those questions that came out from you in the survey, and by the way, we still have that surveys open and live. It's helping us shape some of the content we're doing. It's also, I think, a chance for us to communicate. So you can leave some questions you have in there, and we'll respond to in future episodes. But this question came out, and it's in a variety of ways, and here it is. Every time I try to talk about screen time with my kid, it turns into an argument. How can I change this so we can have a productive conversation? My son, I believe, was around 12 or 13, sixth grade-ish, when he first got a phone, a very stripped down iPhone, an old iPhone, which had no internet. All it basically had was like a calculator, the ability to text parents, and hardly anything else. There's no games, nothing. But I can't tell you how many times I remember being in bed late at night and just kind of venting to my wife, I just don't like that now every day he and I are arguing about this thing. He wants more. I want less. He wants more access, more freedom, and I want less. And I remember just feeling like this is ruining our relationship. Like this is just so irritating. And he, in some good ways, ended up doing a couple major blunders. So we took it away for like 4 months, and it was great to do like a reset. And oftentimes the oldest kid is the experiment in terms of our parenting. So the second kid's getting better parenting, but then the third one, it's kind of like out the window. We're like, it's like getting the worst parenting. So I don't know if you've had that, Tyler, like, or any experiences with your kids are probably angels compared to mine.
Not at all. Well, the first, I will empathize fully that this challenge is really hard. It's like any habit that's been ingrained in our kids is really hard to break, and screens have this allure that is, I think, exponentially difficult. And so even from a younger age, my youngest kids are not anywhere near smartphones or social media, but just screen time in general. I've noticed this maybe even most poignantly with my youngest kid, but he breaks down faster when I turn off a screen than any other thing that we do, right? If he's playing with his toys and I pull him away, he might get upset, but then he's over it. But when he's watching a show, it's usually the show Cars, because he's in love with all things with wheels. But if I turn it off, it's just a huge meltdown. And so it's just like, this is something that has the ability to pull our kids in faster than anything else that I know of. And so it is really hard. What you just mentioned, though, that we've tried to do is some sort of regular detox is really helpful. And so I haven't had a moment where I had to ban any of my kids for 4 months or something. That sounds like that's down the pipeline, I'm sure. But even having like, okay, we're going away for the weekend and we're not going to have screens. And we're just going to be out in nature. We're going to go hiking. We just went camping. And those are some great moments where we actually can't have screens because we don't have any access to electricity, and we're not going to charge any of our phones. And so we're just going to hang out. And that definitely helps. What are some other practical things that you've tried?
Well, what I was going to say is you're sharing that. I think it's important to actually understand what's driving the friction, the conflict between us and kids. I think for me, I feel a level of responsibility for them and their safety, particularly. I'm also aware, because I do this research, of the harms. So when I approach conversations around screen time, I'm actually carrying a lot, not just in that moment, like, did you break the rules or not? Or did I catch you sneaking? That's almost like one issue, but I don't just take it for that issue. I'm like, in a split second, imagining harm coming to them, imagining neighbors hearing that we let our kids have screen time and how bad I'll feel, the shame I'll feel for them. And it's just like, there's actually a lot. Oftentimes I'm charged up. There's a lot in the tank for my kind of angst. And that's intense. And so learning to kind of take a step back, I think, is helpful. But then what's driving the kid? I think on one level, they will just want it. They want it. It does something. It does something to their brains, whether it's game or watching a show or YouTube shorts or whatever. It's like it's doing something for their dopamine. It's actually feeling good. So that's just a kind of fundamental biological, physiological reason. But they also want freedom. They want to be able to be in charge of their lives, which is kind of what we want as well long term for our kids. We want them to be in charge of their lives in a responsible way. And the third thing that they want that's driving their behavior would be peers, the opportunity to connect with peers and perhaps find the acceptance that they long for, which is both a psychological need as well as, I believe, a biological need that's triggered inside them. So when you come to talk about, hey, Dad, can I have more screen time? Or, hey, I noticed you kind of did an end run around these limits that we have, and I'm bringing all the anxiety and intensity of being a bad parent and ruining their lives, and they're trying to just trying to talk to my friends, or I just want to do what I want to do. Like, we're actually almost like thinking of Godzilla meeting King Kong in a moment to talk about the 5 minutes you went over. And it's a much bigger battle. So I think having the frame, I have this little thing that pops up in my phone, and it says this every morning at 9:30. Your kid isn't giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time. And it's just a little thing for me that's like, oh, they're not doing this intentionally to make my day worse. They're having a hard time. There's some, so it's just a slight reframe. And I wonder if that might be helpful to kind of understand the larger dynamics that are in play. So I didn't get to anything practical like you asked me, but that's, I think, to reset what's really happening as we battle.
And well, so two practical tips that come to mind for me. One, I think we start small with the rhythms of just your day and your interactions in your family. And so for us, my family, we've had pretty consistently the dinner table has been always the space where there is no device. And it usually is hardest for me, honestly, because I get bored and I like to just open up my phone really quickly. And so the dinner table is one space in our day where we know we're all going to be together, we're eating together, and there's not going to be any devices. And so it might even start as small as that. If there's so much conflict around how much time your kid is on their device, maybe it starts with picking one moment of the day, even if it's just for 30 minutes, that we're saying this is the one time we have no device. Then we can actually start. And that could spiral into more time and more time. And so there's way to build on that rhythm, but that would be one, just pick one very simple way to get rid of devices in a limited sense. The other thing that I found has actually been really helpful is, so the scenario that often plays out is my kids are like watching TV or on their devices for a long period of time, maybe 2 hours on a weekend because we're not doing anything and it's just kind of a veg out day. And I get that anxiety as a parent, think, oh, they're wasting their day. They should be outside. They should be doing something else. And where in the past it would turn into an argument because I'd say, okay, everyone, time for screens off for the rest of the day, and you need to go find something else to do. And then there would always be some conflict. Instead, I started this. I would say, all right, all I want you to do is turn it off for 30 minutes. That's like the length of one of your shows. Just 30 minutes, you can do anything else, and then you can come right back to it. And the secret is, what I've noticed almost every time I've done that is it very quickly turns into an hour, 2 hours, where because they've become engrossed in something else. They're now reading a book. They went outside in the backyard. And it was like, oh, I stumbled onto this. I just tried it one day and I'm like, this is brilliant, because they didn't think they had to argue with me because I wasn't explicitly taking away screens for the rest of their day, but just saying, hey, all I want you to do is take a 30-minute break. They found so many other things that could engage their attention. So those are two, just actually finding a rhythm in your day. Maybe it is the dinner table where you say, at least this moment, we're not going to have any devices. And then two is find smaller ways to not turn it into an argument, to just say, all I want you to do is take, a 20 to 30 minute break. And so you're finding ways to introduce them to life outside of the screen, I guess.
Well, and I'll connect what you're saying back to what I was saying. I think that biological desire to be entertained and engaged and have dopamine, what you're doing there is giving them a healthier version of that. There's healthier calories, right? It's like complex carbs versus simple carbs. Like, I know you want dopamine, so let's get that, but let's do it in a more productive way. I also think helping your kid recognize that they do have freedom and choice. They don't have to use their screens if they don't want to. And that to continue to reframe for them, what I want for you ultimately is for you to be in charge, for you to be making response. I don't want to be this kind of cop right now, but I'm going to, because you don't have your prefrontal cortex yet. And so I'm going to be the guardrails. I'm going to be the brakes, but ultimately it's you. I want you to be able to choose that. And then finally, your desire for friendship and connection, let's use that and find a way for you to have FaceTime. FaceTime is better than screen time with friends. And certainly gaming and Roblox and other things can help kids connect with friends, and that's a good thing, but FaceTime is better than screen time. It's the last thing I think I'll say is what you're describing for us and our family, we often are pretty haphazard in when we choose to swoop in and enforce rules. And it's driven again by our fear or anxiety, or like, wait a second, I don't want to, but because we are often inconsistent with how we limit screen time. And on a Friday afternoon after school or something, we might just let them be on it for 2-3 hours and not even notice that the time goes by because they're quiet, right, and we're tired. And then like we just all of a sudden throw open the door and be like, all right, everyone off their screens. And that's, of course, that's a recipe for conflict. So that's one of the reasons why in the Tech Healthy Parenting course, what we want to guide you through is being clear. And it's almost, you have to get this recalibration all the time of what do we think right now with this kid in this season, the appropriate amount of screen time is. And let's just clarify that and communicate it ahead of time. And then let's be consistent about it. We obviously are concerned about screen time for good reason. We listed it at the top of the episode. But how we can serve our kids is by us being the ones to think it through, communicate it, and then be consistent. And we want to make it easier because those are nice ideas. But that's why we are the experts in helping families have really simple, common sense exercises and conversations. That's what's inside the course, which we want to highly encourage you to do. Go through it. And the link is in the show notes. Super simple to get started. And we put a lot of time and attention to make sure you have what you need to guide and lead your kids well. So we'll be back soon with another episode as we walk through these very challenging situations. Please send us your particular sticky situation and we'll address it. And all our best to you as you try to lead your kids.